everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're so grateful that you're here. We know how valuable your time is, especially those of you who've been joining for the third night. We're just so grateful. So I just wanted to start off by highlighting the different events that have happened this week and then what's left to come. So on Monday, we had Alex present on microbit. Last night, we had Jonathan So from the Peel District School Board present on Minecraft. Tonight we have Kyle Kitchen. He's an IT for learning consultant with the District School Board of Niagara, and he's talking about natural born makers. And tomorrow night we have Kirsten McBurney talking about apps matching, and she's a teacher with the Thames Valley District School Board. So if you missed the sessions Monday night and Tuesday night, they were recorded and they'll be posted in the bit.ly/UWO21 along with all of the asynchronous content. So we have Dr. George Gadnitis, who did a session on primary coding, Lisa Floyd, who did a session on junior coding, Derek Tangretti, who did a session on coding and intermediate, and Steve Floyd, who did a session on Arduino for senior coding. As well, I just wanted to highlight the different prizes that we have. So if you tweet tonight or throughout the week, using the hashtag Western Makers, you'll be entered in a draw to win a gift card to Chapters in Indigo. And if you're a teacher candidate at Western University and you complete the short or long survey form, which is found at the bit.ly/UWO21, you'll be entered in a draw to win a gift card to Chapters in Indigo as well. So I'm going to pass this over to Derek Tangretti. I'm sure many of you know him, to introduce our speaker for the evening. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jade. And just want to echo Jade's sentiments just about how grateful we all are for you all participating in this. But I'm really excited to introduce our special guest tonight. I've had the pleasure of knowing my friend Kyle Kitchen for quite some time, and Kyle wears many hats, and I want to say both literally and metaphorically. He is an IT for learning consultant for K-8 within DSBN. He's also the founder of Kinders Who Code. He's an EdTech consultant, a Makey ambassador, a professional speaker, a STEM specialist, and honestly, so much more. We won't be able to articulate it in just the time that we have today. I know Kyle is an extreme maker at his heart, as you can see from his background. He occasionally appears as his alter ego, which I'm sure he might show you some today. I've had the pleasure of learning with Kyle for some time, and we're beyond fortunate and grateful to have Kyle here today. So thanks, Kyle. We really appreciate it, and we're excited.
Thank you so much. It's funny. It could be just you and me talking, and I would still run through this presentation with you. I'm glad people decided to attend tonight. I'm thankful for your time. I know a lot of us are teaching right now, and a lot of us are in remote situations. So thank you so much for being here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen, try and prove that I actually know what I'm doing in my role. Except I've been disabled to share my screen by the creators of the Zoom link. So
you should be good now, Kyle.
There we go. Here we go. All right. So as I share my screen, enjoy the lovely picture. It's one of my favorite pictures of Bryce Canyon there. But I will throw something in there momentarily. I'm trying to have cameras up, the chat up, everything, so I can kind of see you and talk to you and see your chat, but I won't lie to you. I packed this jam full tonight, which I'm usually pretty good at my timing, but there's just so much stuff I wanted to show you this time that I wanted to kind of get things going and, show you my last slide before I show you my first slide. If that's okay. So let's go to the beginning of my slideshow. I hope you have a beverage in your hand while you're watching this, because it is going to be entertaining in so many ways. Specifically starting with the first page. Here we go. Let's get this out of the way. Oh, wow. I tell you, this basement isn't cracked up. There we go. All right, so the good news is I can almost skip the first thing because Derek kind of did a great job of introducing me. He must have pulled that bio from somewhere because he's brilliant and he knows me pretty well. So I'm, Kyle Kitchen, IT for learning consultant. But Here's how you can kind of get a hold of me and reach me. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to, if you're on Twitter. The fun part of my Twitter, it's mostly the shenanigans that I get into with students, the creative ideas that we do. There's no business, there's nothing on the side. It's just sharing ideas, sharing resources, and seeing what's out there and connecting with other makers, because that's really why I'm on social media. I have two YouTube channels. One's my DSBand account. So if you need to learn about Teams or Google Meets, by all means, go there and learn some fun videos you can watch. But if you're kind of looking for the extreme shenanigans, I do have a maker account. I found out that YouTube both calls them Kyle Kitchen. And there's also a Kyle Kitchen in Michigan who runs a fantastic restaurant. If you ever want to visit, let me know how it goes, because he has more followers than I do. So those are my two YouTube channels. But the biggest thing is, why are you here? Why am I here? And kind of give you a little background of what I kind of look like as a maker. And it's quite interesting, let me tell you. But I've been teaching for 20 years, typically a 5-6 teacher. But for the last 10, it's been a long time, I've been an IT for Learning consultant, which is like an ed tech coach. We always say we're the bridge between curriculum, pedagogy, and the tech. So we like to show how to integrate that tech into classrooms. And over the years, it's become much, much more amazing. Let's be honest, I got the job by knowing how to do a Google Doc and how to use a smartboard. Now here I am helping kinders, grade 5s, you name it, doing green screen and teaching them on their own. This is the great thing, because I was worried about this job when I first took it. I love being in the classroom. That is what I do. So I was worried, and no offense to everyone here, but like, I was scared I was just going to be that guy teaching teachers. And that's not why I got into education. I want to share my wealth of knowledge, but it's that child mentality that I crave, and probably because that's what I have. So I was really excited that this job actually gets me into classrooms. So it's just not running teacher PD. I've gone in and I've shown kids how to shoot their own green screen. If you look at that little guy with glasses, so cute. He shot the green screen movie for his junior kindergarten class. I've done coding, I've done stop motion. The little GIF you see there is a crazy cardboard arcade I did with my friend Lee Martin, and ran through, thousands of people. And there's my alter ego that Derek's been waiting for, LT Fosbottom. I'm going to call it a pandemic thing, disassociated with myself, created a guy who speaks in a British, Indian, French accent, but kids love him, and he inspired people to create. And I'm happy to say, it's not like I just hopped on this bandwagon of making, because I found this in the archives. This is my first classroom. All my my coding nerds out there are going to notice that computer in the background and say I'm definitely telling the truth. I think it was called an icon. I don't even know what that computer was. I don't know if I ran Windows, a mouse, who knows. But what I want to point out, look at the junk. I see egg cartons. I see styrofoam. I was making. My kids were making. This is the passion that I have. And so I love that here it is. I was doing it 20 years ago. So even though making and maker spaces is a buzzword we might be using now, I know you've done this. I know we've all done. We've had take apart centers. I've seen them over the years and decades. So it's not new. I'm just happy that, yeah, I was kind of that guy back then too. So I want to jump right into this, and I want to involve you as well. I want to ask you a question, and you can put it in the chat. I want to know, what is a moment that you remember from your childhood? And I know some of us really range, because I'm going to definitely date myself, because I like to give you examples. And I'm going to apologize right now. I'm breaking every rule of presentation that I would tell my students. I got too many pictures, I got too many words, and I'm talking too much. So don't use this as an example how to teach a presentation. But what stands out in your childhood, your first experience that you really remember of making? So let me start off. I'm an 80s kid. And yeah, I was such a boy. I loved wrestling. But sorry, back in the 80s, we didn't get wrestling every day. There was no streaming. We had every 2 months, 11 o'clock at night, WWF main event. My dad let me stay up to 11 o'clock, and I got to watch wrestling. So I love these wrestling figures. These guys, if you threw them at someone, you could kill someone. They were hard plastic, they were giant, and they were $10. So I might as well just hand over a bar of gold back in the 80s to afford these guys. So I worked on the farm, I collected fruit, I did everything to buy these guys. And you know what? Did you know there was a wrestling ring that went with it? But guess what? It was $40. So now I got math going on here. 4 of those guys or 1 wrestling ring. So the good news is my dad was the typical old farmer dad, and he had that garage that has everything in it. I don't know. Well, I do know because I'm an old man and I have all my doodads everywhere, but he had stuff. And he said, you know what? Let's make it. And that was a massive turning point for me because I went from the boy who hands him the flashlight and hands him the screwdriver to I'm going to teach you how to make something. And so there it is, all the bolts, a piece of particle board, rubber bands, and a drill. And we made something together. And he taught me a lot of things. He taught me how cheap that other wrestling ring was. And so we made one and it lasted for years. And guess what? It broke. What do? We repaired it. It was a tough 10-cent bolt that we had to repair. But that lived on because that was the first time my father and I changed our relationship from watching him to working with him. So that's my maker event. So take like a little time. I'm going to keep going through the slideshow, but put in the chat, what was your first memory? And don't think it's building all the time. We have to remember making, it's gastronomy, it's knitting, it's creating anything. Don't think it's some little, you must always build something. It can be an experience. And I really want to point that out. And so I really want you to say like, what do you remember? So throw that in the chat. I'll keep on going, but let's get to the premise of my workshop. Now, the fact that Mr. Tangretti asked me to do this, and I know what he's doing right now. And I said, hey, can I do something that's called Creation Doesn't Come in a Kit? Well, he does work with kits and they are great, but I wanted to push my envelope a little bit and I already hacked his kit. So I'll tell you about that later. But if I was a lawyer, this would be my resting argument. Let's look at this. Tell me, what are you making? If you didn't say Hogwarts, you're wrong. If you didn't picture an instruction manual step by step, where's the two-piece brick to create Hogwarts, you'd be wrong. So you know what you're making with this. If I threw this up though, does it cause you a little bit of anxiety? Ooh, do you feel your hands digging in and getting cut up while you try and find that one piece? Because you don't want to dump the whole thing. It's going to take forever to fix. But this doesn't have instructions. This doesn't tell me I'm building Hogwarts. This tells me I'm coming up with my own idea. So we're going to hold on to that, but keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. So to me, I believe that making is about the maker mindset. And I believe there's sparks that cause creativity in those mindsets. Now, I believe it comes down to 4. Now, these could be different for you, but these are the 4 I kind of believe in the most. And I believe empathy plays a huge part. I believe curiosity is another gear in that creative cog. I also believe that necessity is a major part of making. And finally, of course, passion. Those are my 4 cogs. And your cogs might be different, but for me, I think these are really important. So let's be honest, there's no doubt that we're lacking a lot of empathy in this world. We've had a year. Do I need to say? We've had a year. That's really what it's been. This world needs more empathy. We need time to see the point of view of other people and just not see something on the news and feel bad about it. Empathy is seeing that and feeling it. I don't feel sorry for that person. I empathize with that person. I try to experience how they're feeling the way they are. And I feel like empathy is a natural drive to help solve some of these problems in the world that we have. So there's kind of 2 processes that I use. And you've probably heard a lot about the design thinking process. It's a guaranteed one that you've heard of. You know, it came from a company called IDEO where they were manufacturing products. Stanford University also coined the phrase, and empathy is think about it, an engineering design process. That's really interesting to me because they finally took a little bit of a humanity look at whatever, maybe making that phone you're holding there. How am I making this and how am I making it for that person? So they think about that first. But the other one I use is the human-centered design process, which is very, very similar to design thinking, but it puts a little bit more of a human element on that. But the greatest thing is they naturally blend into each other. So here you can see they kind of broke it up, and all these things that look really intelligent and impressive, I've taken from somewhere, and they're at the end of this presentation. So you can click on lots of people smarter than me to really learn about the thinking about this. I just see it and think, yep, using that, it works for me. I talk about it with the students, and it's just a great thing. So when we go into this, because I teach by experience and I teach by doing this, I thought, well, let's go into story time. And I'm glad we have some pre-teachers in here, but I'm also glad we have some other teachers, because I'm always worried about my references and they have no meaning to someone, what pre-teachers, that's like, what, you were born when? Like 2 days ago? It's crazy. So let's look at these two processes via an experience I had a couple of years ago with some students about taking a sensory break. So this was it started out as a lesson in coding, so a pure coding lesson. And with a little empathy, we created this. So let me get an old man storyteller, because we're going to be sitting here a lot. As I said, I hope you have a beverage. So first I went in, this was a grade 3 class, and I went in and they wanted to learn about Scratch and how to code. And this was pre it going into the curriculum. So I was really happy. Of course, I'm coming in and I'm helping them with Scratch. Let's make things move around. Let's do nested loops and let's play with this. And it was amazing. But then the teacher also got some makeys. If you haven't seen those, and remember, I don't get paid by anybody, but they're just a board that lets you like control your keyboard, which is really cool. So you can add buttons, you can add tinfoil, you can add whatever. So we're going to do that. And I, do the traditional game mode and all that stuff. But there was some things happening in that school where I thought we could pull in, and I really wanted to work with some empathy here. So what happened was the school is looking to purchase some sensory items for some students in that school for a sensory room. And we've been in these, and the one up here, like, please, that's the Cadillac of sensory rooms, right? I don't even know what those TVs do, but the fact that they glow is impressive. So knowing that there are school budgets, I thought, how could we intertwine this? How could we make something sensory for students who need that break? Well, for you, what a great way to kind of walk you through the process. So I won't spend too much time on this, but with the design process, it goes through empathy and it focuses on that problem, and you have to define that problem to figure out what it is you're trying to solve. So it's good, you're doing research, you're having conversation to figure that out. Then you're going to plop all your ideas out there. This is the part I love, because I have a lot of wrong ideas, but it doesn't matter. You just want to get them all out on that board, sticky note, you name it. And then you start designing the prototype. And of course, that's the part we love to do. We love designing and making with our hands and trying things out. And of course, then we test it. And then, because it's a process, don't think it has to be linear. You might be going back different steps depending on how it goes. But if we compare that to the human-centered design process takes all the good stuff from design thinking, but it really puts a human spin on it. The biggest thing is, it's just not about making, it's involving the end user. And I hate to say end user, because we're talking about kids, we're talking about products, whatever, but it's taking them and involving them in the process. It's just not me generating ideas, it's working with that student to generate ideas. So with this, I'm not designing the prototype, we're designing it together. But the biggest thing I love about the human-centered design is it actually asks the question, is this even beneficial? So I'm not thinking about final product, made a product. Is the product beneficial to change the problem? Is it beneficial to change out what is happening? So, and I know it, and Derek, you didn't warn me about this. I know I'm going to do this. I probably didn't share my audio when I shared my screen. I guarantee you can just do a nod when you can't hear things. So here's the human design, and you can see it kind of blends all those processes into that one. So let's go see, because this is where I think friends make the best makers. All right, Derek, you can probably give me a nod. I'm pretty sure you're not going to hear sound.
We have it.
Amazing. So I'm going to show a little bit of this, but watch. So the biggest thing you saw there is, number one, there's a sensory box. Now I want to point out that sensory box had a price tag of $2.23. because I charged the kid tax. No, I'm joking. The arcade button, that was the only thing. Everything else came from, and it's my favorite word, and I'm sorry I use it all the time, it all came from the junk drawer, the box of doodads. There was a gate like thing, there was tinfoil, there was old tire toys, it was a paper clip. All those things were available, but all those things were picked by the students, made for that student. And I can even ask you, you probably don't know which student it was made for there, because that sensory box was the break he needed. He didn't have to leave his friends. He didn't have to leave his room. He could throw on headphones. They had Chromebooks and he could just bring out that box. What a great opportunity for kind of the human model of design thinking. And that's the essence of making. Empathy really brought out a lot. And he was so happy to share it with his friends. And trust me, every kid wanted a sensory box after that. So my other cog is, of course, curiosity. And this is for all the younger people here. Whenever you make a presentation, you need at least 3 graphs or 3 inspirational quotes to make yourself sound super intelligent. So here's Einstein. He was pretty smart, but I really agree that, you know, and I'm not going to say this is my motto, but like, he doesn't have any special talents. He's just passionately curious. And curious is a great driving force when we come into what we want to do in making. So, nope, hold on, let me click back over here. There we go. See, I've just frozen. Can you still hear me, Dark?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we can hear you and see you.
All right. Let's see what's going on here.
There we
Good
go.
enough. We'll go up top. So, the biggest thing about curiosity, it's innate. The minute we're born, and it's just not humans, we're curious. We're biting things. Trust me, I got some dog bites from my mother-in-law's puppy. They're biting things, they're experiencing the world, they're wandering. And we're often curious about things we have no idea about. So we're curious about that. Our phones have made us maybe even more curious people because we have that ability to check out what's going on. And the greatest thing, there's different levels of curiosity. You might not be curious about how the Mars rover landed last week, but you know what? You might be really curious about how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. 3 scientific studies, actual university studies. I won't say if Western was one, but they made a machine to represent a human and they counted. And like, look at it, you can see the little math behind the owl. That's crazy. So once again, story time. Let's talk about curiosity. So being a 5-6 teacher and then also doing some rotary science, you know, we had that traditional mechanical gears, pulleys, cogs, all those things working and learning how to do that. So I created, you know, that standard, I cut a bunch of gears out of cardboard. You'll see about my cardboard fetish later on. And I thought this would be a great lesson to talk about speed of gears and turning. But then I thought, let's change it up a bit. So I proposed a provocation. I said, bring in a toy that you think might have gears in it, but aren't sure. So of course, all these RC cars, wind up toys, and I have one. Let's see, I brought it here just to show you. You know, it's weird mechanical, and I can't even tell you, I know it's a spinny thing, but like, there's no batteries. You press a button and it goes. So kids see this like, it's the most magical thing ever. I'm like, no, it's not. It's from 1952. But it's a provocation. So what did that lead to? What else has gears in it? And like, let's think about toys. So they went on and they started doing some research and they found this little guy here. So this is actually an automaton. And this automaton happens to be from 1770. And it's in a museum and still works today. And I love that automatons from the early days, this is where steampunk came from. They're all freaky little doll looking things because they scare me and they come alive at night. I know they do. It's like, you know, a Toy Story. But this is created by Pierre-Jacques Audros. He's a Swiss watchmaker. His company still exists today. He made them as an advertisement for his watches. And these are some of the greatest inventions. Like, it is fully functioning. It writes. There's another one that draws pictures, and there's one that plays music. It was mind-blowing. The kids were blown away. How does it know what to draw? How does it know how fast to go? Which led to, well, what could we build to demonstrate our knowledge? And of course, we started building cardboard automaton. And me being the geek, you know, I added a little microbit to it because I was lazy. I didn't want to turn the crank handle. And of course, it's, if you've ever watched the show, The IT Crowd, watch it. It's hilarious. It's BBC. It's funny. But what's great is, it gets the kids thinking. And so they learned about how fast gears can move, big, small, depending on what it is. What I loved is it might lead to things, purposeful things we need in this world, like robots doing TikTok dances and really moving with each other. And of course, why wouldn't you invite, the house pet in and then really demonstrate how to bust out a Running Man? Because, that's what good technology can do to make a difference in the world. Need is a game altering cog for me in my makerdom. So I put in the definition because need is really, it's essential or very important. And this to me is the grassroots of making. We don't make just because sometimes we're inspired to make. We make because we have a need. We have to fulfill that need. And the biggest thing, sometimes our needs we don't have. So we have to create to fulfill that need. And the biggest thing is, not everything has to be bought. We don't want to waste anything. Things can be repurposed. I'm a big, major fan. I ran a whole thing on it last year virtually about upcycling things. And this picture here, if you ever go to Nova Scotia, we have a trailer. We've been lucky enough and fortunate to travel Canada and the US. This is in Nova Scotia at, I believe it's Lewisburg, the fort in Lewisburg. And like huge, everyone stays in character. And I've been to these before, but this one was amazing. And I was infatuated with this. This is a bread timer. It actually turns bread on a spit. Depending on the weight of the rock you see in the background, that determines how long the timer goes for. The length of the fins determines how fast that spit will turn. So you can put meat on there, bread, whatever, but look at the gears in that. And that is made out of need. It might've been a need that you were lazy and didn't want to do this with whatever you killed that day and you just don't want to turn it anymore. But look at the ingenuity of that. Like that is mind blowing to me. And it seems I have some obsession with gears too, apparently, but like that was made in early colonial times. Like that is crazy. That's a mechanism and it's still obviously working today. And if you ever get a chance to go out there, do that. Then go to the Beggar's Banquet. You'll dance the night away. It was fun, old school, Eastern charm. It's beautiful. So I'm going to share something very personal to me. And I've talked to Derek about this trip before, but I was very fortunate. My friend Lee Martin he brought me with him because we have very similar brains, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But we got to go up north to a place called North Spirit Lake. And if you're not sure where that is, I made a little video for you with good old Google Earth. So here's Western University. And then, you just zoom out a little bit more. All right, there we go. Now let's zoom in to see exactly where this place is. It's so far north that they don't even have grass in Google Maps because it hasn't been mapped. There's a picture of the airport/shed, but that's where North Spirit Lake is. And you can see my mode of transportation, which was lovely, snowmobiles. And this was just a cool picture. It's a fly-in only community. Unless it is, of course, this time of year. And if you're brave enough to hop on a 18-wheeler ice trucker and you can drive up there, which is really fun when you're fishing somewhere. But this is a cool picture. It's like I just saw like, you can see almost like a person there. It was just like the land welcoming us to where we were going. So making has always been organically driven by need. In this place, there's one grocery store, which for us, we would really call a convenience store. That was the size of it. They have one gas station. The airport is literally a shed. And with those ice road trucks, that's like their major form of transportation to get things in and out quickly. So we went up there and they did have an amazing school. They actually had a lot of technology. We were brought up by the principal and the teachers so they could incorporate making with their kiddos. Because you know what, it sounds crazy, but in this day and age, even our people far north, they game. That's what those kiddos do. When I went up there, I was blown away that I didn't see kids out and about. And I, once again, I don't know their stories, but I knew that making could be something that brings us together. And they actually had a 3D printer. And they're doing typical things, right? When you get a 3D printer, what do? You print Minecraft dudes, you print dice, and you print things. But the first night we went up there, boom, right away we had a conversation with the teachers. And of course, what do? They take us fishing. I'm not a great fisherman. I like to go fish. I've never fished where you can't see anything miles and miles around you. And every movie goes through my head. Like, is someone going to eat my frozen body? That's literally what was going through my head. But you can see this picture. There's a hole and they have a 3D printer. So what? And once again, I'm sure the average fisherman knows this, but like they would stick poles in the ice and they would just dangle in the hole. And then they would do like 5, 6, 7 of them. And the essence is, if you see that pole way over there moving, you got to run and you got to grab it and hopefully you get a fish. So knowing that they had a 3D printer and bringing my expertise of, I don't know what to do, let's look online, we thought, what could we do that fits a need? And we found this 3D rigging pole. It's called a tip up. So with this pole, all you do is set it. You can bend it in, put a little hook on, and there's even a little bobber on there with a bell that can shake. And there's little stands in there. So we could set tons of these around and I wouldn't have to be searching all the time. When that tipped up, it flicks so hard, it hooks the fish. It rarely misses hooking a fish because it's like a lightning snap. And then we have dinner. And let me tell you, this was another fun side story. It's so cold up there that the fish were just there. We threw them in the sled on the way home. When we got home to fillet them, which I learned how to do that night, one came back to life. We cryogenically froze our dinner and it came back to life. That's how cold it is in North Spirit Lake. My friend said it was chilly up there. It was minus 42 the other day. So, whew. But I found when we went there, it was life altering because sometimes, and this is obviously everywhere in the world, but we go in with an idea. We went in with a set of making skills and how we want to introduce the maker mindset for them to create. But even still, you hate to say it, but you are biased. You have preconceived notions of what you think they need. But when you go in there, you have to bring in empathy as well, because what they need isn't necessarily what you're thinking. So, and again, I've seen, companies, things like that, and they go in and I think, yeah, teaching skills is going to change the future. Like coding is going to change the future, I guarantee. But it's not going to change the future for this guy who gets to walk around with several rifles and hanging rabbit pellets on his belt, which, by the way, he only does because they're both white ones and it's like a big deal. So he even said, I just walk around with them on my belt because the elders really look at me and think, wow. So coding a microbit's not going to help this guy, which is fine. But so it's up to us to decide, well, what is going to help that guy? Maybe coding a microbit isn't going to help, but maybe coding a sensor to let them know when rabbits go by that area. So he knows that, oh, there's a rabbit in that area. That's where I can set snares, because that's his goal. He doesn't want a product. He wants to eat. So we have to look at need as a catalyst for making. This is a very sad picture. To me, this is the saddest thing. This is a basic need that we all have and we take for granted. They don't have water. Their water is always bad. Every time I talk to them, oh yeah, we're out of water, it froze. And then, they use water to throw into the plumbing so they can work with it. So me coming in with my pre-design here, we could do this with making, do this with the kids. They don't need that. They need this. So helping them learn about that and how to self-sustain is a need, and that's where making can come in. So the last thing I'll leave you with for need is these two guys. This is Brandon and Brandon. You decide which one's which. But we had a typical design challenge, and this was in Thunder Bay that we really like to do. And they were just designing a shed for their community. And of course, we have all the preconceived notions. We put in math curriculum, all that good stuff. And then listening to these guys talk, just listening like, well, obviously we're going to use the shed to hang all our moose meat, and we're going to make a grass into the grass roof because we need to plant our hardy vegetables and be higher up and it'll get the sun. I'm just like, I thought you were going to store your winter equipment in there. And then this is Rachel. She's the language indigenous teacher. We had them film afterwards just to show what they did. And what blew my mind, and this is a part of being open with your exploration, she said it in English, and she's the language teacher. And so Lee and I were both over like, no, why don't you say it in Ochakri? And so she did. And it's hard to see her because she's not super loud.
Good
And if you saw the other one, she just kind of said it. This is our shed. We need it for this. And then the minute she used that, and obviously we don't know it, she cracked a joke at one of the Brandons over there saying, hey, go hunt your moose, because that was their need. So making really, when you give them the freedom to design with their needs, it's a different ball game. So my final cog is passion. And you know what? Passion, we all have it, but I couldn't find, it's hard to define passion. So randomly looking for a good inspirational quote, I love this guy. I don't know who he is. I put his blog at the end. This is the best definition of my passion I've ever seen. Passion is the fuel and the fire of action. When you have passion for something you love, even when you hate it. So everyone here, So, Floyd, Stangretti, how many times have I asked them for help with one of my weird creations? Like, dude, I know it can do this. I don't know how it does it. I give up. I'm a fraud. I can't code. I give up. I hate it sometimes. I hate it. I hate making sometimes, but I love it. And I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to persevere. And that passion drives me to make. But cultivating passion is one of the hardest things you're going to do, but it's the most important thing you're going to do with your students and your classroom. This is a deep dive. This isn't something that's going to be surface area. You're not going to play a game of guess who with your students, say, oh yeah, there's Jade, she likes to knit, I'll use knitting. No, it's diving in. It's doing those, those interest surveys. And I know that seems so old, but have fun with it. My favorite thing with a student when I first meet them is describe your day yesterday in a meme. Well, can I make it? Yeah, you can. And then you just see them like, boom. And I learn more from that because I'm taking their passion, their interest in something they're into. I do a lot of Genius Hour stuff. Don't think it's easy. It's not, but it's so rewarding. We take a deep dive. What do you want to do? Because what all this is going to do is going to build that community with your class, the trust, the belonging, the engagement. Having a relationship with your class is one of the most important things you can do as a maker, because they feed into you, you feed into them, and we can use their passions to really support what it is they're doing. So here's the thing. You're going to witness a lot of things that you have no idea how to do, and that's okay. I do it every day. But our job is to kind of figure out how to support by getting support. You don't have to know how to do Minecraft. You don't know how to do podcasting. You don't know how to weld. But the thing you do have to know is, where do you find help? And let me tell you, grandmas are not utilized enough in education because they are a wealth of knowledge. And the funniest thing is, you're probably looking at knitting. Nope, that person in a helmet, that's a grandma too, because you had to know everything back then. So you're going to support those passions by finding people that can help and support. So this is gonna be a quick your turn too. And I don't even expect you to answer this right now because it's difficult. What is your passion? That's a massive loaded question. So once again, how do I answer that? Well, I share my own experience, and my passion has really become evident in the last couple of years. My passion is working with students. It's sharing the maker mindset. It's seeing what they can do if you give them the opportunity. It's creating a diverse culture of yes, you can. It doesn't matter if it's students, teachers. Oh my goodness, they go nuts. You give them a little design challenge, they're straight arming like the Bills out of the way just so they can get to this stuff before the other people get to. And oh my gosh, green screen, what a game changer. And then of course Minecraft, and trust me, I've learned from Jonathan, so he's brilliant. I have his files and I use his files, but the camaraderie, I can't even talk right now, the passion that's ignited by everything the kids are doing have ignited my passion. And it's just only recently, and probably during the pandemic, that I've realized what my passion is. And it sounds really cliche, but my passion is to inspire creativity in others. It's not really about me. It's about seeing your smiling faces when you take a piece of cardboard and you make something with it. It's about you coding a microbit, just a flash. It's that aha moment. And that is my passion. It sounds so weird, but You know, if I didn't have that, I would be a little dead inside. I would just be, why would I have this basement? Why would I keep all these projects from the kids all over the place? I want to inspire creativity. So that's my passion. If I won, which I didn't win that $1 billion in the States the other day, I would still, trust me, you would see a kitchen mobile maker lab driving across countries with long extended breaks, of course, but I would still be doing this. So those cogs will intertwine with everything. So don't treat them as separate. They're something you want to elicit together and with everything. So guess what? It's time. I told you it was coming again. Number 2. This is where you would expect me to start talking about, Papert and Piaget and the godfathers of making and design thinking and how they worked. But it's me. So I can't even fake it because you guys told me you're recording this. So people will call me out and I'll get hate mail. I don't get mail, but who do I really aspire to? So I'm going to show you the quote first. The world is not in your books and maps. It's out there. So this is a way of saying we can't learn everything sitting at this desk. We need to explore. We need to try it out. And you know who my big mentor is? It's Gandalf. Yep, Lord of the Rings, geeking out. Sorry. Just look what's behind me. Are you surprised? Why do I aspire to be Gandalf? Well, okay, hear me out first, okay? I lost half you there. Thanks for showing up to my talk. We're done now. But think about it. First thing he does, he researched. He had problems. He needed to solve them. He got prepared. He knew there was going to be something amazing about to happen. So he did his research. He read his scrolls. He did everything he needed. Then he brought people together. He built a community. He engaged them. They had conversations. They talked about things. And then he inspired them to go on the journey on their own. He didn't push them out the door. Frodo went on that adventure by himself. He made up his own mind. And the greatest thing is Gandalf leaves. Enjoy your adventure. You go do this on your own. But the greatest thing is, in that time where you're fumbling or you don't know what to do, what happens? Gandalf comes back and he helps you and he solves that problem. So he doesn't leave you on your own. And just like me, and he questions, why did I become an educator? What am I looking at here? How am I going to solve this? But in the end, even though you went on the journey by yourself, he's going to be there with you to help you to achieve your goal that whole time. So he's a great inspiration to me, although fictional, but what a great teacher where he inspires, he makes them go out on their own, he leaves for them to attest and do what they need to do. He comes back when needed. And at that end of the journey, he's more proud of you than anyone will ever be because he's been a part of your journey. So, yep, there's my mentor. I have no other comments about that. I hope you have more intellectual mentors than what Gandalf does, but here we are. So let's think about what our driving force wants to be in the classroom. And I'm going to use an example of erosion as a topic. And I'm with you. I've been there. Worksheets. When I first started teaching, photocopying. It was amazing the amount of trees I killed because guess what? It's easy. But then it's also like so deflating. So I know what I'm going to do. I did it. I'm going to show you a Bill Nye video. Bill. You young people have no idea what you're missing. But anyways, when they roll on the VHS and the TV, it was mind blowing. But then I would just answer an argument like, ooh, what's erosion? Well, I'll just choose one of these words and pray that it's right. But as I got older, I got to kind of experience the world. So I got to go on these fabulous trips with my family. And my biggest thing was showing my kids the world as well, although be it only drivable, we've never really been off the rock. But here's a great example of erosion. It's the arches down in Moab. And then here's the bad part of erosion as well, where this used to be a road and now it's part of the ocean. So knowing that this could be something the students can do, instead of doing a worksheet, let's build the erosion slop machine. Let's do a hands-on activity where the kids actually build erosion buckets. We fill it full of dirt, and then we're going to play by putting different things in. And then, of course, Mr. Kitchen, the rainstorm comes in and pours water all over their amazing creativity, and we see what happens. Because let's be honest, we have to learn through experience. It's always the best mentor. So when they do that, I'm going to give you a little sample. Now, I was going to have you do this, but obviously we don't have time, even have a pen, whatever. But I just want to show you a quick little STEM challenge that I love doing, and it's turned into a bigger design project. But here's kind of an average challenge, right? So build a house that can stand erosion. So you give the kiddos a bunch of stuff, and here you go. Have at it, kids. Let's see what you can come up with. So I'll be the first one to tell you, and this was a learning experience for me. There is nothing worse than a blank piece of paper when it comes to making, because you might be one of those people that have no idea. Mr. Kitchen, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know, because it sounds strange, but believe it or not, kids and people and me, we need constraints. Constraints always sounds like a bad word that, oh, you're not letting me, explore. It's not. We need parameters. We need purpose. So things like a timeline. If I just said, go make this, Derek might take 2 weeks to make this, and Jade might only take a day. So how do I evaluate who's really focused on this, who's doing a good job? Because Derek's watching, the game at home all the time. So constraints are good. Materials, only giving so many materials is really great. And it's really tough, but modeling without giving and inserting your own idea of what they should build. Because like when I say the word house, we all have schema of what a house is. And the other thing is curriculum is a beautiful constraint. Why? Because if I want to embed the curriculum as a constraint, here's what I'm going to say instead. Rather than just build a house to stand with erosion, design a structure that is susceptible to the effects of erosion. You can use any materials, but guess what? You only have $75. That's right. You got to pay for the stuff you're going to use. This is a great maker tip for everybody out there. Kids love glue sticks. If you let them use glue sticks, you will go through your 10-pound box of Amazon bulk supply. But if they have to pay for it out of imaginary money, they have $75 to spend, they're not going to use as many. And then my math constraint was it must be 30 centimeters tall. Why? Because in the back of my maker brain, we're learning about perimeter. So we can embed the curriculum that we're looking for as a constraint. Now, the fun thing is, another side tip, this is a fun thing, and I love the fact that Dan Armstrong is in here because I stole this from him, and we make fun of the kids all the time. If you notice a little wee head there with the $5, that's a consulting fee. If you don't want that kid to say, Mr. Kitchen, how do I do this? Mr. Kitchen, how do I do this? You just say, that's a $5 consulting fee. Do you really want to ask me that question? And I will have kids that build with all their supplies, and I'll have a kid that can afford one popsicle stick within the day because they asked me 22 questions already. And so this is a constraint, but it's a great constraint because it's actually freeing. Now, we're at the point where I'm probably over time already and we're going as fast as we can, but the storyteller is ready. This is my favorite. I've done this before just because I loved this project. This is the evolution of the grade 3 project. So I do love the best maker material in the world, which is called cardboard. Everyone has it. You have it in your basement somewhere. I have it. It's disappointing on how much cardboard I have. I have issues. I go to a club. We talk about it. It's a great time. But this is a major project that started off simply by a teacher saying, and I love these words, hey, Kyle, I see you doing great things on Twitter with cardboard. You want to come in my classroom? Yes, I do. So there was a lot of planning. There was a lot of co-learning. We co-planned, and we had to come up with, okay, what are we going to do? So she was doing social studies. So this is where I feel like I enjoy what I do because I do have a variety of knowledge of how I want to embed this stuff. And I love, and I know Derek does too, supporting the sustainable development goals. So it's just not looking at curriculum, it's looking at how curriculum can affect our real world and how things go. So she was doing social studies, doing communities, and talking about land use and how that determines things in communities. So right away, SDGs, sustainable cities, life on land. Here we go. Are we ready? So day one, simply just a talk. It was research by the kids. We did use some of the design process. We thought, what kind of city are you going to make in the future? What are we worried about now? It was, how much space do we have to build stuff before we start losing food? So you can see in the one picture, there's a lot of thought going in. There's a lot of research going in. Then there's the planning phase. So they had to draw out and get an idea. And you're going to see all this curriculum come in. I don't have to tell you what's going on in that grid there. There's a lot of numbers and it's rectangles. That could be that thing called math that we slipped in on them because I thought we were doing social studies, but hey, don't tell them that. And then the build, the prototype. Oh my goodness, look at those little house parts. And yes, you are witnessing my favorite tool. If you took this away from me, I will quit teaching. I love my glue gun. My glue gun is my pencil to life. So we started building. And then you saw a mass divergence. It was amazing. Mr. Kitchen, do I have to build this? How are we going to present this? Do we just talk about it? Well, you could, or we have lots of options. So several of them decided to code a makey because, they didn't want to spend the effort to actually tell you face to face. They recorded their voices and there were touch points on their cities that said, why is this structure purposeful to sustain development while not taking up land? So you can see there's a big tower that also has a generator on the side, solar panels, and this was what he created, which is really awesome. And the biggest thing about making, which is what we're doing now, sharing. So we set up a sustainable city symposium where all the classrooms in this whole school, and it was a big school, they came through and, they're all blurted out, but that one student is sharing with younger students why this is important, why they're designing it and what it is. And then, they reflected, what could we build better? What else can we make? What can we do? And so that pathway, just so you know, and it looked really quick here, that pathway was 2 months. Not because we needed the time, it's because we always thought of something else we can do with the cities. Your biggest problem of being a maker is going to be storage. Where do I put all these things when you're making? Because here's what we started with. This is what the teacher and I planned out. Here's what she reported on. That's making. I can't walk in to your classroom and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, when so much else is happening. When we see, oh my goodness, they're creating digital media texts. And you can see, and this is why the word's different. Oh, all of a sudden this year, what popped into our math curriculum? Coding. Well, they already did that. This was a couple of years ago, by the way. So look at all the value from that maker project that we got. But here comes the biggest one. This. Making is diverse. It's inclusion.
Swim, jump, dive, and drink. This is a factory. It helps people get toys, chairs, and other kinds of stuff. Visit the stores.
Look how proud that guy was to share that. But there's inclusion here, just so you know, and there's no pinpointing. Can you tell if any of these students are ESL students and don't speak English very well? Can you tell the one who has an IEP? Can you tell the one that's super shy and doesn't want to talk to anyone because he has selective mutism? No. And guess what? Making can't tell that either. It is an area that's inclusive to everybody. And here's the greatest part. Some of those projects, I can do this project in any grade. The ones in the middle are actually grade 8. So how do you take a grade 3 project and make it engaging and fun for grade 8? Well, I didn't. It's the exact same thing, but you can see it's just maybe a different level because this guy had to make an office space so he gets notice on his YouTube channel. So he's going to Twitch from here, really do a good job. But that's what making allows us to do. It allows us to explore, allows us to be individual creators and learn new skills in the process. Now, this is going to sound weird. Actually, conversations with friends, I'm like, I feel like I'm just throwing this next slide in here, but I just feel like it's important and it doesn't even fit with anything. It does, but it doesn't. But like, I really want to promote that STEM is everywhere. It's STEAM. I think I do more art things nowadays with coding than I do actual coding. But I don't want you to think of STEM and silo yourself in, okay, it's a STEM class today. It's a STEM class today. No, it's in literacy. It's in everywhere. It should be like STEM or literacy, you know, all the letters should be in there. So don't silo in a lab, because guess what? Your lab is not my lab. One of the biggest farms is actually underground, and they produce 1,000 kilos of food every day without light and water. It's horticulture. Where's that fit into STEM? I don't know. That's farming, isn't it? Designing a dress that has motion sensor LEDs, that's fashion design, isn't it? That's not STEM. Oh, it is STEM. And then, of course, our poor little doggos who get old and can't truck around like they used to. Well, you know what? Let's just 3D print them something. This was a great tweet from last week's Mars landing. And once again, I don't even think it belongs here, but I just want to put it in because it was so cool. Like, so this guy didn't do well in engineering, and he landed spacecrafts on Mars that day. And I love that STEM is hard for everyone. Grades ultimately aren't what matters. Curiosity and persistence matter. And that's so true. We're not instilling a grade system. We're not instilling making this product, because guess what? The products we can't keep up with. This first one, my second year of teaching the muscle system, we made a very cool paper towel skinny muscle arm that bends, and then it progressed quickly to a mechanical hand. And then last year, oh, why not 3D print a hand? But wait, let's add a microbit to it so it can move on its own if you turn it or not. And then to me, the real innovative piece of all this, let's create a site that all these makers can 3D print prosthetics, and we give them away for free for people in need. That, to me, is the making world. That's the culture. So we shouldn't be looking at make this, make this, make this. How do we make this to better the world? How do we take this away? Because you know what? Arduinos are going to be up to phase number 20 in a couple of years. I can't keep up with that, but I can help instill that mindset to create innovative thinkers rather than looking at that innovative product. So we're almost done, but the biggest thing is, and I think this is one of the biggest hiccups in maker journeys, it's instruction and assessment. So if we go back to our Lego kits, oh yeah, congratulations, Derek, you made Hogwarts A+. And then I take away 2 little bricks from him and he can't make an entire tower. Instructions are easy. Everyone making the same product is easy. If they're all making the same thing, I can help them. That's easy. But when we are making and we're letting students explore and looking at open concept learning, we have no idea what the end product would be. I could have 23 students and have 23 different products. How do I mark that? How do I rate that? What if they use something that, you know, and by all means, I'm going to defer to everyone else in here. I don't know how to use an Arduino. I know how to do basic coding. I wrote an article called The Secret Life of a Non-Coding Coder. I fake code. I get people like Derek who are brilliant to do coding with me. He teaches me, but I can come to them and say, I have this idea. I have no idea how to code to creation. And I think that was like 2 years ago, and I asked about the Darth Vader pumpkin one with the TIE fighter. I asked a whole bunch of you guys, how do I code my pumpkin? And will I know, especially, how do I know if they understand the curriculum? Because in the end goal, that is what we're talking about. How do I know they understand the curriculum when they're making a product that I have no idea what that is? Well, let's go to an actual document, learning success and growing success. Too much of and even now, even with our remote learning, it was tough because too many of us are focusing on product. We're focusing on one corner of a triangle. For triangulation of data, we want conversation observation, and this screams everything maker. Yes, there's going to be a project at the end, but if you're so concerned that that product is the most important part, yet everyone has a different one, this triangle falls apart. All it becomes is a dot. So having those anecdotals, that conversation observation is a game changer. And just by knowing your students and talking to your students, that's what we want to take. So things I use, love, single point rubric. Because you know what, I don't even know what they teach anymore. Sorry, in teachers college, because like, do they teach full on rubrics? They do teach single point. Oh my gosh, I can go have my drink now. So Good, because you know what? Old school designing, okay, I want a 3-part lesson and I want 5 rubrics with 17 criteria. No student is reading that rubric. They're like, check, check. Is my grammar right? Who cares? But a single point rubric is easy for us to create. It is focused. It is central. You got it. You don't got it. You need a little help with it. That's what a single point rubric can do. And Jennifer Gonzalez from Cultivating Pedagogy has an article in there, which I included in the end. So you can kind of learn a little bit more if you've never seen them, but these are game changers for me. Students love these and they appreciate that. Here it is. I'm not hiding it between all this jargon between a level 1 and a level 4. I'm not worried about that. If you don't got it, why am I even marking you in the first place? So single point is that roadmap that's super great that I love to use. And then of course, other things we want to do is have the students create their own documentation. You know, digital portfolios. I teach Google Sites to 3rd graders. And they're putting all this stuff, and some kid back in the fidget spinner days, those are little turning things for our younger people. He was selling them on a Google site that I helped him make in school, and I wasn't sure what was going on. So the other nice thing is Flipgrid. This is a game changer, I feel, because Flipgrid is video documentation. So once again, always check with your board or whoever, but like having the student tell me about their challenges and actually showing me what's going on, game changer. And of course, just a good old fashioned planner. This is my buddy Lee's. I always steal this one, but like having them draw what they're going to do, having them reflect. I can't say it enough. Always be reflecting on what it is they're creating and what they're making, because that reflection is going to turn into another piece of learning for them. Okay. So I recorded this yesterday.
Sorry, Kyle, I was just going to jump in. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, we're just going to have a few minutes left just so we can get ready for some of these attendees to go, but I could listen to this all night. So,
so I'm going to get to it because like this one is kind of cool and you can watch this in the presentation, but this was a getting to know you, and this came from yesterday, and she was knitting. Why? Because her Nona did it, and she wanted to understand why her Nona liked knitting. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, knitting is something that I will never understand, but I am going to actually leave you soon. 2 more slides. Here we go. I just want to reaffirm that making is super easy and everything always works the first time. It's so easy. You'll never have an issue. You'll never have any fails. Of course, I'm being sarcastic, but the journey is great. I myself have had so many fails, like my own robot snapping its own neck literally minutes before a conference about how to make robots with cardboard. You know, you got to love this quote because it's so true. 60% of the time, every time. And let's be honest, when it comes to coding, this is my life. How many hex files have I done with microbit? Couple. Then I just get angry, start calling it names, burn. But this is the one you'll see on Instagram because boom, it's finished. It's amazing. You love it. So I'm going to leave you with this. My toolbox. If I didn't have this, I wouldn't be a maker. None of these things are extremely expensive tech. None of them are going to be life-altering coding, but they are the essence of beginning. And of course, in my toolbox, I have my community because they're the ones that help me. If we are lucky enough to get into the coding part, which I love, don't get me wrong, all my cool things have something going on here, but these are my game changers because they don't tell me what I'm making. They leave it to me to decide what I'm creating and what I'm making. Because in the end, I want to focus on the mindset of making and then find the tools. My worst question, I know you all probably get it, is what robot should I buy from my makerspace? And I say, well, what do you have in your makerspace that doesn't have to be plugged in first? And what do you have that you can find? And finally, the biggest thing is find you some maker friends. That's the best advice. Like-minded people. I abuse our relationship all the time, Tengrady, getting help from you, but you are great with creativity, so you share openly. But follow people on Twitter, YouTube. I've learned so much from YouTube if I can't solve it. And, you know, find yourself a weird buddy because we know they're out there. You find that person, you grab onto them, and you just do weird making stuff together. So to finish off, I wouldn't be a maker if I wasn't tooting my own horn in this presentation. If you want, I did make a Flipgrid that you can give reflections of this. Let me know. Have a conversation with me. Anything you want to do, I'll put that link in the chat as well. But just share your making experiences. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And if you need to see anything in there that I've talked about, I have some resources in there, and I put in some hashtags, people to follow. I can't put them all in. There's millions of them. Kudos to everyone who's here that I should have put in, but Floyd's, you all know, I abuse our relationships when I need help. So I appreciate everyone here. Thank you for your time. It's a late night. It's Wednesday, and I know you're tired, but this has been great. I wish we could talk much longer and actually talk, not just me talk to you, but thank you so much for inviting me here, everybody. Western. Oh, as my robot suddenly just kicks up, like that was my timer. Did you see that? There we go. Clanker says he's out. So I will bid you adieu, only because Derek will be disappointed if I don't leave you the way I should. That's going to fall off. I'm sweaty. Thank you, Derek and Great Evo, having as Evo's Bottom join you in this adventure of coding. And I appreciate everything everyone has done. Keep on making, have great adventures, and ta-ta for now. Goodbye.
Awesome, everyone. Huge thank you to Kyle Kitchen and all of you for joining and sticking around for a few minutes. Please don't forget to tweet about your learning using the hashtag Western Makers for your chance to win prizes. As mentioned earlier by Jade, this session will be recorded along with all the other sessions, but follow Kyle. He has a plethora of resources that are available. If any of you want to ask some questions and stick around, Kyle, if you have a minute or two,
of course.
There was just a question that was in relation to like, someone wanted to know how to make robots with cardboard. If you could even just give like some high level answer to like some of the different things or where to start if they're interested in doing that might be the way to go about it.
Definitely. Can I do it now?
Yeah, please.
So the biggest thing when we come to robots, so actually with the Fozbob, and this is like my alter ego that I think I created during the pandemic before we went in, I actually did something called the Fozbottom Challenge. And I said that, we're all remote, but that doesn't mean we can't be creative and we can't create creatures, robots, you name it, just with things you have in your house. So in essence, so this is Clanker version, whatever. I actually dropped him yesterday and almost cried because his head just came right off. The first thing is to create your idea and create your robot. Gather your resources. How many things do you have? This is what do you have kicking around in your house that might just be laying around? My kids are trained to throw all the paper towel rolls at home. So the first thing is like creating the robot itself, building that structure, building whatever. And I always say that you're going to build a couple of these because the first one, like always, that's your prototype. This isn't the final or the first version of Clanker. I've had a couple of these guys, but Tim Hortons screamed to me, and that was a big belly and the mustache and everything. But then with me, so for coding, I do love using the microbit because it's versatile, it's easy to code. So I'm totally a visual block coder. I'm not a Pythoner. I would love to, but that's not where my passion lies. I like doing the easy stuff to instill that, a 5-year-old could do what I do. Don't tell them that. I'm really important. But things like the microbit, adding a couple servos. I'm partial. I've actually met these guys in Pittsburgh, and the one person I came to know, Katie Henry, now works for Microbit, but she was part of a company called Bird Brain Tech. They do what's called a Hummingbird Kit. I'm still here. So I use Kit loosely. It's actually just everything packed in one tight box that you can actually buy anywhere. But they did a good job. It's basically like an Arduino, but they took all the hard stuff in our Arduino out of there, and you just connect wires to attach your motors, your servos. There's motion sensing, lights, all that stuff. Sorry if I take you for a little ride right now. So it's hard to tell, but this is my first build with a Hummingbird. It's an interactive Harry Potter Goblet of Fire. So it plays music, and if you get too close to it, there's a motion sensor, and then it starts vibrating and lighting up. So if you're like, a first-year wizard, you can't put your name into there or else it goes berserk. So that's kind of what I really like to use when I'm making something that's movable or mobile. Other than that, you know, the three I showed you are my jams, like Makey. I love that just because it's so simple, but it's creative. So, you know, things I've made in the past, which are strewn about. I made a Makey Game of Thrones flute that played the actual theme song. I have made a pinball machine. I think that's the one that got me into becoming a Makey ambassador. And, you know, I met Colleen Graves and we've talked a lot. She's amazing. She works for Makey and is like the ambassador and I don't know what she is. She's an amazing creator, but like book reports, you name it. So I take things that, and it's horrible to say, that are doable for me. So I know they're doable for all audiences. When we get into the higher grain stuff, I will defer you to many other people on Twitter that can use Arduinos. But for me, you know, the Hummingbird Kit, Microbit and Makey, those are the ones I think I see the most light come out of students because they think, ooh, I can do this. And then they do. And it's just amazing. That was a really long explanation. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I don't know if we have any more questions, Kyle. We just want to extend our gratitude again. Jade, is there anything that you wanted to say to wrap up?
Yeah, just thank you so much, Kyle. That was awesome. I learned so much. Yeah, it was just awesome. So thank you so much. Don't forget to tweet, as Derek mentioned, and thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Lastly, don't forget, tomorrow we have our final one, which is Kirsten McBurney. Please join again tomorrow night at 7:30, and those asynchronous modules are still up. Kyle, you are always an inspiration, my friend. So grateful that you could join and share with us.
Thanks, guys. I super appreciate it. You know what? I only come out the woodworks in the basement for you guys. You know, anytime. I just love talking about this stuff, and it's tough because I love seeing what other people do too. Right? This is like a one-way format, so everybody, you know, virtual happy hour, my house in the basement, whenever you want it. Open invitation.
Hopefully we can do that soon. If you ever go to Kyle's session, they are very tactile normally and hands-on. So if you ever get a chance once we get past this period, please check out what he does. It's always engaging, and I would like to say, organized chaos in the best, most complimentary way. And I think he would be happy that I said it that way. So thanks again, Kyle. And thank you everyone for attending. Have a great night, everyone. And we hope to see you back tomorrow.
All right, guys. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.